You're struggling to get hired in cybersecurity, even though you have a valuable in demand skill. Entry level roles are shrinking, AI is changing hiring, and job postings are now requiring 3+ years of experience for entry level roles. Hi, my name is Bray. I'm an ethical hacker, and today I want to speak to the people who find it very hard to break into the cybersecurity industry and what they can do instead. So, in Forbes' recent article titled "The Entry-Level Hiring Crisis is Getting Worse in 2026," they highlight the following facts. 35% of entry-level jobs require 3+ years of experience. Yes, you have heard that right. 3+ years of experience just for an entry-level job. 45% of employers post fake job listings, and 3 in 5 Gen Z workers plan to embrace blue-collar work in 2026, including half of those with university degrees or higher education. It can be very frustrating to follow a script that no longer exists. You studied cybersecurity for years, you got the degree, you've built the knowledge, and now you're being locked out of an entire industry. However, there is hope. Instead of abandoning cybersecurity as a whole or pivoting completely, you can use the skills you already have or the skills you did learn when you were studying cybersecurity. You can use those skills to generate income through freelancing and client work while continuing to apply for jobs. Now, I know a lot of people are not necessarily excited by that fact. Everybody wants the security that comes with a job. But hold on, let me explain. Let me explain my thinking. For starters, don't let anybody lie to you that a job is the only way to earn income in your field. I think it's good to work with clients, your own clients. You build real-world experience, proof of skill, and momentum so you can survive financially and still strengthen your career at the same time. I see more and more graduates building their own streams of income outside traditional employment. Ironically, the businesses and companies not hiring graduates are in turn creating their own competition as we all look for clients to serve. So, here's what I need you to understand. You have a high value skill. Cybersecurity is in demand. That has not changed. What has changed is how companies are hiring. Businesses are minimizing risk. I don't blame them. I see their perspective. If they think hiring you costs more than automating something with AI or hiring someone more experienced, guess what? They'll definitely choose the cheaper, less risky option. That makes sense from their perspective. But here's the shift I need you to make. A job is not the only way to earn income in your industry. You don't need permission from a company to monetize your skill in this decade where you have access to global markets. Your marketing can literally be posting on YouTube, posting on LinkedIn. Those are free. Creating GitHub projects, those are free. So, you don't have to stop applying for jobs. That's not what I'm saying. You can still continue to apply for jobs. Keep applying, keep networking, do that consistently. But while you're doing that, stop acting like employment is your only path to income. If it takes you 1 year, 2 years, even longer to land a cybersecurity role, then what are you doing during this time? If you spend those years working completely outside your industry just to survive, you're not building relevant experience, But if you freelance, even small projects, you're practicing your skills, building proof of work, gaining real-world experience, understanding clients, business needs, and creating your own portfolio, and even earning your own income. You don't necessarily need a lot of capital. Obviously, a lot of people, when they hear anything to do with being a CEO or being a founder or starting a business, it's the number one concern is capital. But, you don't necessarily need a lot of capital, and you don't need to build a massive startup. All you need is a laptop, the Wi-Fi and the skills you already have. You can offer basic penetration testing for small businesses, security audits, policy writing, risk assessment, security awareness training, consulting for startups that can't afford a full-time security staff. The market is very simple. A client with a problem and you with a result. Back to the capital problem, like finding income to use as capital to start a very small business or to freelance. As long as you have a high value skill and access to the internet, you can look for clients. You have access to these global markets. You can literally talk to somebody on the other side of the universe. Go on Fiverr, look for your own clients. The market is simple. A client has a problem, you have a result. You don't need to build a huge company and become the next Jeff Bezos. Just start trading your skill for value. And here's the part you might not see yet. As you do freelance work, you're not waiting for your career to start. You're actively building it. Every project becomes evidence and every client becomes social proof. Even deliverables become proof of competence. If you do end up getting a job interview, all the clients you've worked with when you're freelancing, you can use those to demonstrate the skills that you have. Eventually, these recruiters and employers won't just see the degrees and credentials, they'll see your demonstrated skill. So I do not think you need to pivot entirely if you don't want to. But separate the idea that income is being held by gatekeepers. I genuinely believe in this decade there's no such thing as a gatekeeper. And we've seen time and time again how the script isn't necessarily working in this decade. Go to school, get a job, blah 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 blah. The script. So we have seen proof of that. Good examples is during COVID in 2020. So many people lost their jobs because of the pandemic. Another example is the release of AI. There's so many people, especially in large companies, who there were so many layoffs because of AI. There are multiple examples on why the script isn't working today. But in this decade, there are multiple ways for you to generate income. Creating content is free. Building your own website is free. Nowadays everybody is leaning more towards vibe coding. So that's free. Yeah, I would highly recommend you separate the idea that a job is the only way for you to generate income and needing permission for you to practically exist. I don't think you need those. So those are my thoughts. I hope to see you in the next video.